Cybersecurity Toolbox of the Mind drawer. 3. Identity Brain Performance. Primer. Take one slow breath, not to escape the work, to prepare your mind to perform. Release every thought that does not belong to the task ahead. Working memory is limited. Protect it. Direct your attention toward one principle. Access begins with identity. Before a file is opened, a secret is retrieved, or an AWS resource is modified, the system asks a simple question: who is making the request? This question begins every secure decision. Do not begin with permissions. Begin with the principle: a person, a workload, a service, a role, a federated identity. Everything else depends on correctly identifying the requester. Now organize the structure in your mind: principle, authentication, authorization, action, resource, condition, decision. Repeat it silently: principle, authentication, authorization, action, resource, condition, decision. Do not memorize these as separate terms. Bind them into one mental model. A principle presents credentials. Authentication verifies identity. The principle requests an action. The action targets a resource. Policies evaluate the request. Conditions narrow the circumstances. The system allows or denies access. This is how the brain learns complex systems. It organizes individual facts into connected relationships called schemas. Instead of remembering isolated definitions, you begin recognizing the entire decision process as one structure. Now separate two concepts that are often confused. Authentication asks, "Who are you?" Authorization asks, "What are you allowed to do?" These are different questions. A principle may authenticate successfully and still be denied access. Repeat: authenticated does not mean authorized. Classification improves thinking. When you correctly identify the type of problem, you reduce unnecessary cognitive load and make better decisions. Now consider authority. In AWS, identities often assume temporary roles rather than relying on permanent credentials. Authority is granted only for the work that needs to be completed. Carry this principle into your own thinking. Long-lived identity, short-lived authority. Do not let yesterday's assumptions become permanent truths. Evidence changes. Models must update. Strong analysts continuously refine their understanding. Now examine trust. Every role answers two separate questions. Who may assume this role? What may this role do after it has been assumed? Trust and permission are not the same. Never confuse who may become an identity with what that identity is allowed to accomplish. Pause. Retrieve the distinction without looking. Who may assume the role? What may the role do? The brain becomes stronger when it retrieves information instead of simply rereading it. Now think like an IAM analyst. For every request, build the same internal sequence: principle to action to resource to conditions. Ask yourself, who is making the request? What action is being attempted? Which resource is affected? Under what conditions? Only then should you examine the policies. Avoid vague questions like, "Does this user have access?" Instead ask, "Can this principle perform this action on this resource under these conditions?" Precision creates clarity. Clarity reduces mistakes. Now remember another principle: least privilege is precision. Grant only the authority required to complete the task. Nothing more, nothing longer than necessary. Strong security is not built on distrust. It is built on clearly defined boundaries. The brain learns in much the same way. It predicts, it tests, it discovers errors, it updates its internal model. Treat every mistake as information. When a request is denied, ask why. Was authentication successful? Was the action permitted? Was the correct resource specified? Did a condition fail? Did another policy override the request? Do not simply fix the answer. Improve the model that produced the mistake. Learning occurs when prediction meets evidence. Finally, remember that identity is not a single event. It is a life cycle. Join, change, elevate, review, revoke. Permissions should evolve as responsibilities change. Old access should not remain simply because it has always existed. Review prevents privilege from accumulating unnoticed. The same is true of knowledge. Review your assumptions. Keep what remains supported. Discard what no longer matches reality. This is disciplined thinking. Now, retrieve the complete model. Who is making the request? The principal. Who verifies identity? Authentication. Who determines authority? Authorization. What defines every request? Principal. Action. Resource. Conditions. What is least privilege? Only the authority required to perform the task. No more. No longer than necessary. Take one final breath. Prepare for your work. Protect your attention. Observe before concluding. Verify before trusting. Trace the principle. Trace the trust. Understand the permission. Follow the evidence. The goal is not to memorize IAM. The goal is to think like an identity architect. Every secure system begins with one question. Who is making the request? Train your mind to answer that question with clarity, precision, and evidence. Train the mind before the mission.